Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to go over part 2 in this series of how to sell your lesson plans and other teaching materials using ClickFunnels. Last week we went over how to kind of set up your account and what we're exactly building, which is a sales funnel. So if you haven't already checked out last week's video, go ahead and do that now. Let's go ahead and jump into today's video where we tackle how to bring in your template and kind of a tour of the editor itself. Hey everyone, welcome back to Sell Your Lessons, the place to learn how to sell your lesson plans and other teaching materials on your terms. I'm Jessie, your digital marketing and tech coach, and today we are going to go over part 2 of our series, How to Sell Lesson Plans on ClickFunnels, going over specifically how to import your template and then also kind of a generic overview and walkthrough of the editor and everything you need to know about using ClickFunnels as a system. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to go ahead and start down in the description. In the description of this video or any of the other parts of the series, you're going to find a link that you can click to go ahead and import your sales funnel template and get your 2-week free trial started. So since I am already logged into my account because I already have an account, when I click this, it's going to import it. For you, if you do not already have an account, it's going to have you set that up first and then it will be there for you. So I'm just going to click. It's going to ask me if I want to add it, and I'm going to go ahead and add the sales funnel. So then I just kind of wait for a few seconds until it loads, and then it will ask me to edit. All right, that only took maybe 10-15 seconds to go ahead and load. So now I'm just going to go ahead and click View Funnel. Okay, so it brings me straight into this funnel where I can start to edit it. Now we're just going to go over a quick tour today, and then I'll give you some homework at the end of this so that you can go ahead and be prepared for next week. Here we are in the actual funnel. To get back to your list of funnels, you can always go up to ClickFunnels and then Funnels, and it will take you to the list of all your funnels. Now, I already have this funnel in my account since this is where I made it, so I want to make sure this one is something different. The blue bar up here are the settings for your entire funnel. So you can notice that you'll also see all of your sales, contacts, and stats, and the steps of the funnel right here on this blue bar. So I'm going to go ahead and click into the settings. And I'm going to name this series. And if you want to add groups to your account, so I'm going to add this to my Sell Your Lessons section. Later on, we're going to talk about things like your domain and your favicon and tracking codes and all these things. But for now, I'm just going to name it and then add it to a group tag so that when I do go back to my funnels, it's going to show me and kind of sort all of my funnels how I want them. Now, a few other things to note while we're in here. If you notice, there's a place to reset stats. This is really nice for you to do right before you launch a funnel after all of your testing. You don't want all of your stats to kind of mess up with the real sales. So this is a good place here. There's also clone funnels. So if you really like your funnel and you want to duplicate it for a different product, this is where you can clone the entire thing. And down here is even your share link. So if you want to share your funnel with someone else, this is where you do that. All right, so I'm going to go scroll down and hit save. Now the rest of this page right across here, so the blue bar was for the whole funnel, and this gray bar is just for this step. So this is any automation for this step, and the automation is really reserved for ClickFunnels' internal system, follow-up funnels. So only use this automation tab. You're really only going to use it if you have the full suite and the full ClickFunnels Platinum suite. And so for the most part, you may not use this tab a ton, especially if you have an outside email service provider. The products is going to be very important because that's where we set up our product to sell. And then publishing is kind of like little last minute details of this page, which we'll get into later as we finish because we're really not ready to publish the page yet, right? Okay, as you can see here, there is a link. Now, we're going to go over links later as well, but just know that there are a couple places to work on this path and then this domain. And if you're curious, can I change all of this? The answer is yes, and we are going to do that in a later video. Here is where you go ahead and enter the editor. So if you notice these little buttons here, this will pop up the page in a preview, and then this one over here is going to pop up the page in a live view. So that's kind of the difference between these two, is this one's a live view and this one's just a preview. So if I go ahead and click it, we can go ahead and see this is the template that we're going to be working with. There's a place for your mockup and the details, what's inside, bonuses, and then a final kind of stack. Testimonials, what other people are saying, kind of the terms about you. So if you do not have any of this stuff yet, you should go ahead and stop this video and go do all of that now, because as I mentioned back in video 1, you really have to have your products, figured out, designed, created, everything ready to go, even these mock-up shots, everything ready to go before you start this series, because this series is all about actually selling the lesson plans. So please check out some of the other videos on the channel if you're not sure how to make this mock-up shot or how to create your offer or even design your lesson plans. All right, now we're going to jump into the editor. So the ClickFunnels Editor is really nice because it's a basic drag and drop. And there's really 3 types of colors you should be aware of. There are the orange elements themselves, there are the blue rows and columns, and then the big green sections. Okay? So that's really it. It's the green sections, the blue rows and columns, and then the orange elements themselves. Now, depending on what kind of page you have, what page type, you're going to have different elements. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. Because this is an order page, you notice at the top, these are the order elements. You're not going to see these same options on, say, a thank you page or a webinar registration page. You're just not going to see your credit card element or your order summary element because it's not an order page. So the big thing in ClickFunnels to remember is make sure you're using the correct page type for what you want to achieve. This is an order page, so of course I wanted an order page type so I can have these order elements. Get it? Now on the side here it kind of gives you the different categories of elements for the most part. So if there are specific elements for that page type, they'll be at the top. But everything else is just kind of scrolling down, and like I said, you can see it here on the side as well. We've got our basic text elements, things like headlines, subheadlines, paragraphs, and bulleted lists. Then we have the media. Let's say you want to add an image or a video, that kind of stuff's here. Different forms. Now you can go ahead and create forms right here in ClickFunnels. A lot of times it depends what you're going to do with the data, whether you use something here in ClickFunnels or whether you would use something outside like Google Forms or Typeform or something like that. But the big thing in this section is your button. Then we have a few advanced things like shipping address, billing address, countdown timers. There are 3 types of countdown timers if you want a countdown on your page at all. The first one here, Countdown 2.0, that lets you select a specific date and time for the timer to run out. And the nice thing about these timers is that if somebody comes after it's expired, we can forward them to another page, maybe an expiration page, or maybe a page that has the same offer, only a different price. Kind of the possibilities are endless. A minute timer is a specific amount of time. So let's say I wanted a 30-minute timer on the page. Every time somebody came, it would reset at 30. And then there's a day timer where the timer would just show how many hours are left in that particular day. No matter what time of day they entered the page, it would count down to the end of the day. Then there are some content blocks. These are kind of cool, things like the image list. If you don't like the basic bullets and you have your own little image icon, you can add that here. You can also add icons themselves. The navigation is kind of cool, especially if you're going to use this for your website, kind of having those links right there. The divider is another one that a lot of people use, so the divider is a good one. And then down here we have miscellaneous elements. If you are going to embed, if you get code, say from your email service provider, or like I said, something like a Google form or anything that you want to add to the page that comes in code form, this is the block that you pull in so you can paste that code right in there. All right, so as you can see, I didn't go over everything, but those are some of the main ones. Now, let's see, how can we dive right in? So when we go into something like a text editor, if you just click, if you notice, it brought up kind of a basic editing tool right here, and then I can literally just start to type. So if I have a headline, I can go ahead and change the headline, you know, whatever I want. Now, if I want to go into some deeper settings, then I can click this button right here, and it takes me to the settings. Now, you can go ahead and set the fonts for the entire page at a different location, but if you wanted to change just this headline, then you can change that right here. Also the font size, and this is really cool. Here is the mobile size, so you do not have to create one element for your desktop and one for mobile. You can change it right here. Now this is kind of important because a lot of people view things on mobile these days, so you want to make sure your page is mobile optimized. Again, that's something we're going to go over way later in this series, so you don't have to worry about it right now. But this is kind of cool because, look, I can make this really big here, but then if I look in the mobile view, it's back to tiny. And that's kind of how we optimize it right here, is being able to change it there. All right, here we have the text color and the bold color. The cool thing about ClickFunnels is if I bold some and leave some unbolded, I can actually have them different colors. Okay, if it works for me, there we go. So I have the bold one color and then the part that's not bolded a different color. If I wanted a background color, and if I had an icon, that color here, if I wanted to go ahead and add some sort of border color, which I don't have a border on there right now, so that's why there's nothing showing. If I wanted to fade it a little bit, I could. And then here, like I said, we can set the headline and the content font. So if you wanted those specific ones, you could choose that here. Okay, and it tells you right here how to set what those are in the settings. All right, and then if I go to advanced, it's just that. It's advanced settings. So if I want to go through any of these things, like maybe I wanted to add an icon, I could do that here. Maybe if I wanted some letter spacing, if I wanted any sort of shadow. Text transformation is kind of cool if I wanted to just quickly click for it all to be, and capitalized means the first letter of each word is capitalized. Oh, and if I added something like a background, this would be the place to come to add a little bit of padding for design. So there's a lot you can do, but I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. That's kind of the point of having a template like this, is so that there isn't a ton for you to change. You can just go ahead and kind of use what's there and change some of the basic stuffs like colors and fonts and things like that. But we're going to go over design next week, so you don't have to quite worry about that right now. The next thing I want to show you is up here in this settings. We have a place for integrations, the SEO metadata. Again, these are the types of things we're going to go over in other videos. Your tracking code, custom CSS, which I'm sure a lot of you, depending if you know any code in CSS, you may not ever have to touch something like that. The background, if you want a certain image to go through the whole page as the background. The typography is where we go ahead and, like I said, set what we want the content font to be. So we have some options just right here, or click, and we have access to all these Google fonts. I mean, look how many there are, so many. The headline font, the basic text color, although of course you can change it, and then what color you want your links to be on the page. Which again, all of this is customizable at the element level, but it's nice to kind of set it overall, just in case there's, just so that it's on brand throughout the page. All right, let's see here. Something like an image, if I click, there's this little button here where if I click it, it'll let me import or access my library. So here I have my library. I can go ahead and click upload to upload something else into my account, or select something I already have and kind of, place it in here. If I want to add some alternate text, which is always a good idea, just because a lot of people, if they have some sort of special needs as they enter your page, being able to, a lot of people have page readers, and so if they're blind, for example, and they can't see, having the alternate text is nice because their reader can read it to them. And then the image width is really nice if you just think your image is super big, or if you're just trying to adjust the image that you have. Let's see, like if I really wanted it super small. If I have nothing, it's going to fit the space that it's in. Same thing with image height. Same thing with image height. Now, to be 100% honest, I usually only work with the width because it mobile optimizes a lot better. If I start changing the image width height, it tries to stay the same, and then it goes all wonky and distorted on mobile. So for the most part, I only change and adjust the image width if needed to. And if you need them to click to go somewhere else, you can add that link right here and choose whether they stay in that same window or opens up in a new tab or window. And again, just like everything else, there is an advanced section, and a lot of this stuff is just kind of, you get in and you just start to edit it and see how it goes. And you kind of learn as you go. Now this two-step element, if there's any of these that you would like to change, you can change that here. We can take a look at, we might want to show the step 2 settings. Show step 2 so we can see it. And adjust any of that stuff here. So for example, if your order bump, your one-time offer text, you can go ahead and change that right here. And in the advanced, that's where you would say, you know what, I don't want them to share a phone number, so hide it. I don't want them to show shipping, so I hide it. I don't want to show the order bump, so I hide it. These kind of options are all right here. Right, as we scroll down the page, this is all stuff that we've already gone over. Same thing with any of the text boxes. They all work the same way, so you don't have to worry about different text boxes doing different things. This is the bullets, so you can go ahead and change this, but you can also go to the advanced and change what that bullet is if you like something else. And then you would do that for all of them. So once I know what I want, I always like to search by the name. If I know, oh, it's an arrow. And that way I don't have to just keep scrolling endlessly each time. Oh, right here. Things like the buttons, if I click the button, it's going to have a place right here for the color, which I know is what a lot of people care about, which is the color, and then also where to change the text. Again, we're going to go over design next week, but you might want to change the text, yes. And then if you have subtext, I want this now. So this is kind of cool that you can have kind of 2 lines of text on the button. And then right here you can set the action. What do you want this to do? For right now, we have it set to scroll. But let's say that we didn't want to scroll up here to this customer info section. Let's say that I wanted this button to go to a different page. This is where I would set that. I can go to the next step in this funnel. I can go to a specific website. I can submit the order. If this were the order form, I would click to submit the page. Open the pop-up if I happen to have a pop-up on the page. Or this is kind of even cool to show hide a section, which is really nice if you want to have click here to see this, and then they click and they see it, and then another button that says click here to close this menu. They click and it could hide what you wanted to hide. So that's kind of cool. So as we can see here on our green sections, we have different settings that we can go in there. Same thing, we can do background images, different widths of the section itself. So now you can see our green section is a lot smaller. I like to work in wide or full width. And then the same thing on our rows and columns. So as you can see here, I have a background image that I can take away, and then it would just be the basic background color, or I can add it back. And then there's different ways to fit that image in the background. A lot of these, again, you just kind of have to play with it and see which one resonates with you more. I could do an entire video just on background fitting. It's crazy. Yeah. So this is a very, very quick tour, but again, I don't think that everything is so easy to manipulate and edit. So let's say, for example, I'm like, you know what? I like her quote and I want it over here and I want his over here. Well, how can I do that? Well, I'm just going to click and drag. And then I'll click and drag his over here. Done. Let's say I have a fourth and I just want to add everything really quick. Okay, well then I would need a 4-row column. So the plus brings up the menu to add a new row. And the same thing with like the green plus. If I click, it can bring up a new row, or sorry, a new section. And then I'm like, okay, so I can bring their stuff down here. Right? And then I'm like, oh, I needed that fourth one. I can click this clone button. And then all I have to do is click, go in, upload the next person's picture, add image, and boom, there I go. And same thing here, I can click. There's even keyboard shortcuts. I hit the D for duplicate. And there. Now all of a sudden I have 4. And I don't need this anymore, so I can delete it. Gone. Now let's say that I wanted to clone this entire blue section. I can do that too. Clone. And now I have 8. And I can go ahead and adjust these. Let's say I liked this whole section, or even this one. Let's say I like the design, but I wanted it somewhere else. I can clone the whole thing. And then use the arrows to move it up. And then change it for whatever I wanted. Let's say I had a picture of myself that was not a circle, but it was more wide. Ooh, this one. Okay. But I wanted it bigger, right? So I can just click and drag this. Okay, and I don't want it circle. There we go. So see how easy that is to just drag? And the reason it's not going the whole width is because if you notice, I have it set to 75%. So I can take that off and now it's bigger. Right? And ending with the logo. All right, so that is a quick overview. You would access the pop-up up here if you did have a pop-up. All of the settings we kind of went over. If you want to see what this looks like on mobile, you click this mobile button here. Now sometimes this editor isn't always exactly the way that it looks on mobile. So always pull it up directly on your phone or your mobile device to take a look at it before you push your page live, right? So you can kind of see what it looks like. Okay. Go back to the desktop here, and as always, click Save often. You have to save the page before you can click Preview. So if I click Preview and go into the page, it's not going to have any of the things that I edited because I didn't hit Save first. So all of this doesn't show because I have to click Save first. These are where you can edit and adjust the current columns, elements, things like that. But the thing is if I go to manage, for example, I can see all of the elements. Okay, well, I can click to get into them by just clicking to get into them, you know. Down here is something I want to note. If you want it to be viewed on mobile only or desktop only, this is where we do it. But again, we'll talk about that stuff later. If you want to show and hide the elements, that's down here. Change the CSS info or even delete it. But we also know that there is a delete right here, along with the clone, settings, and the move. So I know this is kind of long, but this is just kind of a quick overview. I want you to get in and get going. So your homework for next week is to go ahead and change out these elements. So change out your mock-up shots, change out the name of your resource, all of this information, the details. Go ahead and just plug in your images and your descriptions and everything. So let's say that you had 6 parts. You can just clone this and boom, now you have 6. Go ahead and put in all your information, get it going. We're going to work on design next week. So right now you just want to take what you have and get it in the template. Don't worry about the way that it looks. We're going to design later. Just get your stuff in the template and click save. Now, the rest of this template, if you have a one-time offer, which is optional, but of course it will raise that cart value. So I always suggest it. The one-time offer is right in here. A lot of times people like to do videos for one-time offers, so that video would go right here. Now videos and things like that need to be hosted somewhere else. So whether it's on YouTube, Vimeo, Wistia, somewhere else, you want to have that video saved somewhere else, and then you would just link to it here. So you would just pop the YouTube link right here. Again, I just want you to come in and put what is in your offer. And don't worry about the styling. We'll do that next week. And the third page in this funnel is your order confirmation page. So this is where you would, if you wanted to do an offer wall, where you show, hey, look, there's other products. You could show that here. Otherwise, you want to definitely have some information on what to do next. If they need to check their email, check their email. Where can they contact you if they have questions? What kind of directions do they need in order to receive what they just purchased? Let them know right here. So that's your homework. Go ahead and go through, edit all 3 of these pages for your information, and then next week we are going to tackle design. There you go, a little overview of how to use ClickFunnels and import your template. If you are still bumbling around and have a few questions, let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to explain things further. Don't forget to come next week, subscribe so you don't miss the next few videos in our series where we continue to build out our sales funnel to sell your lesson plans online. Until then, go ahead and check out some of the other videos on the channel, and I will see you next week. Bye.